The gathering on Earth was unlike anything in human history. Representatives from every colony, every ship, every nation stood in the great assembly hall. Above them, holographic displays showed hundreds of architect ships now bonded to humans across the galaxy. President Moon Seo-jun stood at the podium, his aged face showing the strain of recent months. "We stand at a crossroads," he began. "The gift of the architects has made us powerful, but with power comes choice. What kind of species will we be?" Jae-won sat in the front row with the other first bonded. Mi-sun was there, though she seemed to flicker between human and something else. Her integration with Dream had gone further than anyone thought possible. "I've called you here because we must decide together," President Moon continued. "The other species fear us. Some still plan attacks. Others offer alliances with conditions. We need a unified response." Ryu Jinwoo stood up from his section. "The path is clear. We have the power to reshape the galaxy. Why should we bow to species who attacked us? Because that's not who we are," Han Yuna countered from across the room. "The architects didn't choose us to be conquerors. Then why did they choose us?" Someone called out. Jae-won felt the vessel stirring in his mind. The ship had something to share. "May I?" he asked the president, who nodded. Walking to the podium, Jae-won placed his hand on the display console. Through the vessel, he connected to every architect ship and every bonded human. Together they shared the final message, the one hidden deepest in the ship's memories. The assembly hall faded. Everyone found themselves standing in a vast space filled with light. The architects were there, not as they were at the end, but at their beginning. Young, hopeful, full of dreams. "We failed," one architect said, its voice heavy with sorrow. "We grew too rigid, too certain. When the devourers came from beyond the galaxy, we fought them with force and won, but victory broke us. We became what we fought, hard, unchanging, alone. Images flashed by. The devourers, beings of pure hunger that consumed entire systems. The war that lasted millennia. The weapons that cracked reality. The victory that left the architects masters of a wounded galaxy. We tried to heal what we broke," the architect continued. "But we had forgotten how to hope, how to imagine, how to create instead of control. So we built the ships and set them to wait. Wait for minds that could hold contradiction, for hearts that could hope against evidence, for spirits that could see beauty in the broken." The scene shifted. Now they saw the galaxy as the architects saw it in their final days. Not just stars and planets, but patterns of thought and feeling. Rivers of consciousness flowing between worlds. And there, just beginning, the bright sparks of humanity. "You dream," the architect said with wonder. "You tell stories of futures that cannot be, then make them real. You love those who are different. You find family among strangers. You are everything we were not. Everything the galaxy needs. But the ships are not your destiny," another architect added. "They are tools. What matters is what you build with them." The vision began to fade, but one last image remained. The galaxy as it could be, worlds flowering with life, species working together, the wounds of ancient wars finally healed, and at the heart of it humans, not ruling but connecting, not commanding but inspiring. The assembly hall returned. Many were crying. Even Jinwoo looked shaken. "We're meant to be bridges," someone whispered, "between species, between dreams and reality." Mi-sun stood, and when she spoke, her voice harmonized with itself. "The ships are already teaching us. Each bonding changes us, makes us a little less human and a little more universal. We become translators between what is and what could be." "Then that's our answer," President Moon said. "We don't conquer. We don't hide. We offer to share what the ships teach us, freely, without conditions." "They'll never accept that," Jinwoo argued, "but with less fire than before." "Some will," Yuna said. "The Epsilon already believe. Others will follow when they see what we can do." Over the following days, humanity crafted its response to the galaxy. They would establish healing centers on dead worlds. Any species could come and learn. The bonded pairs would teach what they knew about working with matter and energy through hope and will. Most importantly, they revealed the whole truth. The devourers were not gone. The architects had driven them back but not destroyed them. Someday they would return. The galaxy needed to be ready. It needed to be whole. The first to accept the offer were the smallest species, those with little to lose. They came to the dead world Jae-won had helped heal and watched in wonder as humans and ships worked together. Slowly, Carefully, the humans taught them to feel the rhythm of creation, to imagine transformation. Not everyone could bond with an architect ship. The frequency was unique to humans. But everyone could learn something. How to see possibility in the impossible. How to hope when hope seemed foolish. How to create instead of destroy. The Korvax came last, proud and suspicious. Their representative stood on the healed world, testing the soil, tasting the air. This was Deadstone, he said. Now it lives. How? Come, J1 said. Let us show you. He took the Korvax to where a group of humans and ships were working. Not on anything grand, just encouraging grass to grow in a pattern. The Korvax watched as human imagination flowed through architect technology to touch reality itself. Try, Misan offered. Think of something beautiful. Korvax do not think of beauty, the representative said stiffly. Everyone thinks of beauty, she replied. They just call it different names. Hesitantly, the Korvax reached out. Nothing happened at first. Then slowly a flower bloomed. Not an earth flower or a Korvax plant, but something new, something that had existed only in an alien mind until that moment. The Korvax stared at the flower, then at his scaled hands. I made this? We all made it, J1 said. Human imagination, architect technology, Korvax aesthetic together. Word spread. The healing centers grew. Species that had barely spoken in millennia worked side by side, learning to touch creation itself. It was not easy. There were setbacks, arguments, old grudges that flared, but slowly something new was being built. 1 year later, J1 stood on Mortis VII. The planet where it all began was transforming. Where there had been only death and sand, now there were the beginnings of forests, lakes forming in ancient craters, life taking hold. So Min stood beside him along with Captain Ho-Jin and Dr. Choi. Even Commander Yoon was there, his suspicion long since replaced by wonder. Look what we've done, So Min said softly. Look what we're doing, Jae-won corrected. Above them, ships from 20 species worked together, their crews learning the art of creation. The vessel hummed in his mind, content, but also watchful. In the deep void between galaxies, something stirred. The Devourers had not forgotten. They would come again, but this time the galaxy would be ready, not with weapons of war, but with the power of connection. Humans had taught the galaxy to dream together. When the darkness came, they would meet it with light. What now? Captain Ho-Jin asked. Jae-won smiled. Now we explore. The architects left more than ships. There are libraries out there, workshops, wonders we can't imagine, and somewhere maybe surviving architects who chose to sleep until the galaxy was ready to meet them again. And we'll find them? Dr. Choi asked eagerly. Humans are good at finding things, Jae-won said. But more importantly, we're good at understanding them when we do. A message came through the network. Another dead system had been found. 3 species were requesting human help to heal it. Jae-won felt the vessel's joy. This was what they were meant to do. Ready for another adventure? He asked his friends. They were. They always would be, because that was what made humans special. Not their power or their technology, but their endless ability to hope for something better and work to make it real. The galaxy had found its gardeners, and the garden was going to be magnificent. Far away on the edge of everything, an architect opened eyes that had been closed for eons. It felt the changes in the galaxy's consciousness, the healing, the growth, the unity building between species. They're ready, it whispered to others still sleeping. The inheritors have come at last. One by one, the sleeping architects began to wake, not to rule or guide, but to watch and wonder as the young species they had placed their faith in began to transform everything. The age of humanity had begun. Not an age of conquest, but of connection. Not of human dominance, but of human inspiration. The galaxy would never be the same. And in a small ship above a healing world, Park Jae-won, a salvager who had found more than scrap metal, smiled and reached for the stars. The attack came at dawn, Earth time. Jae-won woke to the vessel's scream of warning in his mind. Outside his window, the space above Earth's newest colony blazed with weapons fire. They're here, So-min's voice crackled through the communicator. The Allied fleet, just like intelligence warned. Jae-won was already running, his bare feet slapping against the cold metal floor. The vessel was changing, preparing for battle even though that was not its purpose. Around him, alarms wailed as the colony's defenses came online. 300 ships hung in space above the colony. Korvax destroyers, Drachnary battleships, others from species who feared what humanity had become. They had united for one purpose, to take the architect ships or destroy them. All bonded pairs respond. Admiral Song Minky's voice boomed across all channels. The old soldier had prepared for this day. Protect the colonies. Show them we are not helpless. Jae-won reached the vessel and placed his hand on the hull. Instantly, he was everywhere. He could feel Sungmin's echo powering up. Hwang Mi-sun's ship, Dream, singing a battle song it had not sung in eons. 14 bonded pairs across human space, all connected already. We don't want to fight, Jae-won said through the ship's communication system. His words reached every vessel in the Allied fleet. Please. The ships are meant to heal, not destroy. Surrender the vessels, came the cold reply from the Korvax commander. You have 10 minutes, Han Yuna's voice joined the channel. The diplomat was on Earth, working desperately to prevent war. The council voted to give us time. This attack is illegal. The council is weak, the Drachnary admiral growled. Humans have had these ships for 2 months. Already you grow too powerful. It ends now. In the capital ship of the Allied fleet, commanders from 12 species watched their screens. They had studied every recording of the architect ships. They thought they understood their capabilities. They were wrong. 5 minutes remaining, the Korvax commander announced. Jae-won felt the other bonded pairs through the network. Young humans, most of them. Explorers and dreamers who had found sleeping ships and awakened them with a touch. Now they faced their first real test. Remember what the ships taught us, Jae-won said to them all. We don't fight with weapons. We fight with understanding. What does that mean? Asked Kim Dong-ho, newly bonded to a ship called Whisper. You'll see, Hwang Mi-sun answered. She had gone the furthest in her bonding, sometimes forgetting where she ended and her ship began. Trust the ships. Trust yourselves. The 10 minutes ended. The Allied fleet opened fire. Beams of energy that could crack moons struck the architect ships. Missiles that burned with nuclear fire exploded around them. Gravity weapons tried to tear them apart. Nothing happened. The architect ships did not have shields as other species understood them. Instead, they existed partly outside normal space. The weapons passed through them like light through water, causing ripples but no damage. Impossible, someone whispered on the command channel. Then the architect ships moved. Jae-won had thought he understood speed. He was wrong. The vessel folded space around itself, appearing instantly beside a Korvax destroyer, not to attack but to sing. The ship's song resonated through the destroyer's hull and suddenly every system shut down. Not damaged, just sleeping. Across the battle, other architect ships did the same. They danced between enemy vessels, touching them gently, singing them to sleep. In minutes, half the Allied fleet hung dead in space, their crews unharmed but unable to move or fight. What are you doing to our ships? The Drachnary admiral roared. Teaching them peace, Mi-sun answered. Her voice was strange, half human and half something else. Your ships are tired of war. We're showing them how to rest. But the Allied fleet had not come unprepared. From the largest battleship, a new weapon emerged. Ancient technology forbidden by treaty, pulled from some vault where it should have stayed buried. Reality bomb armed, the Korvax commander announced. If we cannot have the ships, no one will. President Moon Seo-jun appeared on all channels from Earth. Stop this madness. You'll destroy the entire system. A small price, the commander replied, to prevent human domination. The reality bomb launched. Jae-won felt the vessel's fear, not for itself, but for the millions of humans in the colony below. The bomb would unravel space itself, leaving nothing but void. All ships, Jae-won called. Together, now! 14 architect ships moved as one. They surrounded the reality bomb, not in normal space, but in the dimensions beyond. Together, they sang a song of stability, of reality asserting itself, of space remembering its proper shape. The bomb tried to explode. Reality rippled. For a moment, stars flickered and went dark. Then the singing won. The bomb collapsed into itself and vanished, taking its destruction to some empty dimension where it could harm nothing. The Allied fleet watched in stunned silence. Their ultimate weapon had failed. Their ships were being disabled one by one, and the humans had not fired a single shot in anger. We are not your enemy, Jae-won said again. We never were. The architects chose us to heal, not to conquer. Why can't you see that? On Earth, Ryu Jinwoo watched the battle with his followers. "You see?" he shouted. "We are superior. The old species attack us from fear. We should rule them all." But his words fell on fewer ears than before. Most humans watching the battle saw what Jaewon saw. Scared beings lashing out at change. The architect ships could have destroyed the Allied fleet. Instead, they had disabled them with gentleness. "This is not over," the Korvax commander said as his ship drifted powerless. "Others will come. The galaxy will not accept human superiority. Then we'll teach them too," Misun said. "As many times as it takes." The battle, if it could be called that, was over. No lives lost, no ships destroyed. Just hundreds of vessels floating helpless until their crews could repair them. It would take days, maybe weeks. Time for tempers to cool and wisdom to prevail. But the attack had consequences beyond the immediate. Across human space, people realized they were truly in danger. The gift of the architect ships had made them targets. Some colonies called their explorers home, forbidding them from seeking more ships. Others did the opposite, sending teams to every architect site they could find. If war was coming, they wanted every advantage. Jaewon landed the vessel and sat in the grass outside the colony. His hands shook. He had felt the power of the ship, the terrible things it could do if pushed to violence. It scared him. "We did the right thing," So-min said, sitting beside him. She had watched from the ground, helping coordinate evacuations that thankfully were not needed, did we? Jaewon asked. "We showed them we can disable their entire fleet without effort." "That might scare them even more." Before So-min could answer, new alarms sounded. But these were different, not warnings of attack but alerts of discovery. All across the galaxy, architect sites were activating. Not just a few, but dozens, hundreds. The ships were waking up. All of them. And they were calling for humans. "What have we started?" Jaewon whispered. In the depths of space, something else stirred. The architect ships were not the only legacy of that ancient race. Other things had been left behind. Things that had waited just as long, but for a different purpose. The galaxy was about to learn that the architects had been preparing for something. The ships were just the beginning, and at the heart of it all were the humans. Young, confused, hopeful humans who had no idea they were about to become the most important species in the galaxy. Not through conquest. Not through war. But through the simple act of believing that dead things could live again. The real story was just beginning. The Galactic Council chamber was bigger than any room Jaewon had ever seen. Representatives from 50 different species sat in circles that rose up like a mountain. At the center, Jaewon stood with Ambassador Lim Tae-ho, feeling very small and very human. "The human called Park Jaewon will explain how he stole architect technology," the Korvax representative said. Its three eyes stared down at them with cold anger. "I didn't steal anything," Jaewon said, trying to keep his voice steady. "The ship chose me." Laughter filled the chamber. Not friendly laughter. The sound of beings who thought humans were silly children playing with things they did not understand. Ambassador Lim touched Jaewon's arm gently. The older man had spent 20 years working with alien species. "Let me speak," he whispered. But before Lim could say anything, new voices erupted. The news from Vega had reached everyone. Oh Sung-min, a former military pilot, had bonded with a second architect ship. Now 2 humans flew in ships that no other species could even turn on. "This is unacceptable." The Draknari representative slammed a scaled fist on her desk. "Humans have been in space for less than 50 years. The architect sites are protected heritage. You have no right." "The sites were never protected," Ambassador Lim said calmly. "Every species was free to study them. It's not our fault that the technology responds only to us." That made the shouting worse. Jaewon closed his eyes and reached out to the vessel, which waited outside the station. The ship sent comfort and strength through their bond. "Show them," the vessel whispered in his mind. "They fear what they do not understand. Show them truth." Jaewon stepped forward. The shouting continued, but he raised his hand. The gravity in the chamber shifted slightly, just enough for everyone to feel it. The room went silent. "The architects left a message," Jaewon said. "Would you like to hear it?" Before anyone could object, he opened his mind to the vessel. Together they projected the memory. Not on screens, but directly into the minds of everyone present. It was an ability Jaewon had discovered during the flight to Vega. The chamber dissolved. In its place, the representatives saw the architects. Tall beings of shifting light, beautiful and sad. One of them spoke, and everyone understood, no matter their species. "We are ending," the architect said. "Our time in this galaxy is done. But we have seen the future in probability and dream. New voices will come. Young minds that hold complexity and contradiction. They will think in ways we cannot, feel in ways we dare not. And when they arrive, our children will wake." The image showed the ships, hundreds of them sleeping across the galaxy. "These vessels are not weapons," the architect continued. "They are not tools of conquest. They are bridges. The young species with the right frequency will unite what we could not. They will heal what we broke. They will finish what we started." The vision faded. The chamber returned. Every representative sat in stunned silence. A small voice broke the quiet. It came from the Epsilon representative, a species so ancient that most had forgotten they still existed. "The humans, they are the inheritors, the ones spoken of in the old texts?" Ambassador Lim stood straighter. "We don't claim to be anything special. But the ships respond to us. We can't change that." "You must give up the ships," the Korvax said, but with less force than before. "For study. For the good of all." "No," J1 said simply. "The bond can't be broken. The ship is part of me now. Cutting us apart would kill us both." His sister, Bei Jiwoo, was watching from Earth through her communication station. She sent him a message of support through their family channel. Even across the vast distance, family still mattered. Admiral Song Min-ki of Earth's defensive fleet had warned them this might happen. The older species would not accept humanity's new role easily, but Jae-won had hoped showing them the truth would help. "If the humans keep the ships, what stops them from conquering us all?" the Dreknari asked. Jae-won almost laughed. "Have you seen our fleet? We have 12 warships. You have thousands. The architect ships are not weapons. Then what are they?" someone called out. Jae-won thought about how to explain. The vessel helped, giving him words and images. "They are healers," he said. "The architects fought a great war long ago. They won, but at a terrible cost. Whole systems were destroyed. Planets turned to ash. Species wiped out." He gestured to the space around them. The ships were built to fix that damage, to restore dead worlds, to heal the wounds left by war. But the architects could not do it. They had become too rigid, too set in their ways. They needed minds that could imagine the impossible and make it real. Human minds, the Epsilon said softly. "Yes," Jae-won agreed. "We see a dead world and imagine gardens. We see empty space and imagine cities. We hope when there is no reason to hope. We try when failure is certain. This is why the ships wake for us." Another representative stood, the Vashti, known for their logic and careful thought. "If this is true, prove it. Show us this healing." Jae-won looked at Ambassador Lim, who nodded. They had discussed this possibility. "There is a dead system near here," Jae-won said. "Killed in the old war. Give us 1 month. Let us show you what the ships can do." The council argued for hours. Some wanted to destroy the ships before humans became too powerful. Others wanted to study them. A few, like the Epsilon, seemed to believe the architect message. Finally, they voted. By the narrowest margin, humanity was given 1 month to prove their claims. As they left the chamber, Ambassador Lim looked tired but hopeful. "You did well," he told Jae-won. "But now comes the hard part. Bringing a dead system back to life?" Jae-won asked. "No," Lim said. "Convincing them to let us do it again after we succeed." The news spread across human space faster than light. On Earth, on Mars, on the dozen colony worlds, humans looked up at the stars with new eyes. They were not just colonists anymore. They had a destiny, but with destiny came danger. 3 more architect ships had awakened, bonding with humans who found them by accident or purpose. Each bonding sent ripples through space that every advanced species could detect. Han Yuna, Earth's best diplomat, worked without sleep to keep the peace. She met with representatives from species who had never acknowledged humanity before. Some came with threats, others with offers. All wanted the secret of the architect ships. "We don't have a secret to give," Yuna told them over and over. "We are as surprised as you." On the frontier colonies, Ryu Jinwoo gathered humans who believed the ships were meant to lift humanity above other species. "We are the chosen," he preached. "The architects picked us. We should use this gift to take our rightful place." Jae-won heard about Jinwoo's movement and felt sick. That was not what the architects wanted. But how could he convince people who had been looked down on by other species for so long? The month passed quickly. Jae-won and Sungmin worked together, learning how their ships could combine their abilities. 3 other bonded pairs joined them. Together, they flew to the dead system. It was worse than J1 had imagined. 3 planets orbited a dim star. All were gray and lifeless. The very space felt wounded, scarred by weapons that had torn at reality itself. "Can we really fix this?" Sungmin asked. His ship, which called itself Echo, hummed with uncertainty. "We have to try," J1 said. The 5 ships arranged themselves around the first planet. The human pilots joined their minds through the ships, creating a network of thought and feeling. J1 felt his consciousness expand, touching the others, becoming more than himself. Together they reached into the planet. Not with tools or machines, but with hope and imagination. They felt the dead rock and imagined life. They touched the frozen core and imagined warmth. They saw what was and dreamed of what could be. The ships sang, not with sound, but with the fundamental frequencies of creation. Slowly, impossibly, the planet began to change. Watching from nearby, the Galactic Council observers could not believe their sensors. The dead world was warming. The core was spinning. An atmosphere was forming from elements that had been locked in stone. "Impossible," the Korvax observer said. "Not impossible," the Epsilon replied. "Just forgotten. This is how the architects worked. Not with force, but with harmony. Not by imposing their will, but by encouraging what wanted to be." It took 3 weeks to heal the first planet. By the end, J1 and the others were exhausted but triumphant. Where there had been gray death, now there was a world ready for life. Blue oceans, white clouds, brown earth waiting for seeds. The galaxy watched and began to understand. Humans were not conquerors. They were gardeners. The architect ships were not weapons of war. They were tools of hope. But understanding did not mean acceptance. In the shadows, plans were being made. Some species could not allow humans to keep such power. The real test was coming. The meeting room on the New Sol was full of arguing voices. J1 sat quietly at the table while everyone talked about him like he was not there. 3 days had passed since he found the vessel. 3 days since his life turned upside down. "We should cut the ship apart and study it," said Commander Yoon Dae-jung. The military man's face was hard as stone. "We don't know what it might do." "Are you crazy?" Dr. Choi Yoonji leaned forward in her chair. "This is the greatest discovery in human history. A living ship that bonds with human minds. We need to understand it, not destroy it." Jaewon felt the vessel's worry through their connection. The ship was parked outside, attached to the New Sol's hull. It did not like being so close to weapons. "The ship is not dangerous," Jaewon said for the 10th time. "It wants to help us." Commander Yoon looked at him with cold eyes. "That's what it tells you." "How do we know it's not controlling your mind?" Before Jaewon could answer, Somin stood up. "I've known Jaewon for 8 years. He's still himself, just more." "More?" Dr. Choi asked, her eyes bright with interest. Jaewon tried to find the right words. How could he explain? "I can feel space," he said slowly. "Not just see it, feel it. Every particle, every wave of energy. The vessel shows me things human eyes can't see." "Show us," Captain Ho-jin said. He had been quiet until now, but Jaewon knew he was curious. Jaewon closed his eyes and reached out to the vessel. The ship responded immediately, eager to help. Together they did something small but impossible. Jaewon lifted his hand and a cup of water on the table rose into the air. It floated there, spinning slowly. Everyone went silent. The cup settled back down gently. "The ship can control gravity," Dr. Choi whispered. "Small-scale manipulation of fundamental forces. This is beyond anything we have." "It's not the ship," Jaewon said. "It's us together. I can't do it alone. The vessel can't do it without me. We need each other." Commander Yoon stood up sharply. "This is exactly why it's dangerous. What else can it do? What else can it make you do?" The vessel spoke in Jaewon's mind, and he smiled. "Would you like to see?" he asked. Without waiting for an answer, Jaewon stood and walked to the window. The others followed, unsure what he was doing. Outside, the vessel began to change. Its hull shifted and flowed, forming new shapes. What had been a smooth ship became something else. Wings spread out like a great bird. Colors rippled across its surface. Blue, silver, gold. "Beautiful," Somin breathed. "It's showing off," Jaewon said with a laugh. "It likes having an audience." Dr. Choi was taking notes frantically. "The molecular structure must be programmable. Smart matter on a scale we can't even imagine." "How old did you say it was?" The vessel doesn't measure time like we do, Jaewon said. But the last thing it remembers clearly is watching a star be born. That star is now a white dwarf. That made everyone quiet again. White dwarfs took billions of years to form. We need to tell Earth, Captain Hojin said finally. This changes everything. No. Commander Yoon stepped forward. We need to keep this secret until we understand it better. He's right, Dr. Choi said, surprising everyone. But not for the reason he thinks. If the other species in the galaxy learn that humans can activate architect technology, we could have a war on our hands. Jaewon felt cold. He had not thought about that. Humans were new to space with only a few colonies. The older species barely noticed them, but this would change that. The vessel says there are more ships, Jaewon said, waiting across the galaxy. What happens when other humans find them? Then we better find them first, Captain Hojin said. Over the next days, Jaewon learned more about his bond with the vessel. The ship taught him in dreams and quiet moments. It showed him the architects, tall beings of light and thought who built things to last forever. They knew they were dying as a species, but they saw something in the young races that gave them hope. Why humans? Jaewon asked one night, floating in space with the vessel wrapped around him like armor. The ship showed him. Not words, but understanding. Humans were not the strongest species, not the smartest, not the oldest, but they had something unique. They could hold two different ideas in their mind at once. They could feel joy and sadness together. They could hope even when things were hopeless. This complexity of thought and feeling created the exact frequency needed to wake the architect's ships. Other humans came to see the vessel. Most could not hear its song, but they felt something. A pull, a recognition. Dr. Choi brought her whole science team and they took readings that made no sense. The ship exists in more than 3 dimensions, she told Jaewon. Parts of it are here. Parts are elsewhere. It's like looking at the shadow of something much bigger. Commander Yoon brought soldiers. They stood guard with weapons that would do nothing against the vessel. Jaewon could feel their fear and tried not to judge them. Fear of the unknown was natural. Then came the day when Jaewon truly understood what he had found. I want to show you something, the vessel said, but you must trust me completely. Jaewon did trust. The bond between them had grown stronger each day. Show me, he said. The world exploded into light and color. Jaewon was no longer in his body. He was the ship. He felt the solar wind on his hull. He tasted radiation like flavors. He heard the singing of distant pulsars. But more than that, he felt the network. Faint and sleeping, but there. Hundreds of ships across the galaxy waiting. And on a distant world, one was beginning to wake. Another human had found another ship. Jaewon came back to himself, gasping. So-min was holding him, her face worried. You were gone for an hour, she said. Just standing there, not responding. I was everywhere, Jaewon said. He looked at the others gathered around. It's starting. Another ship is waking up. A human colony in the Vega system. Commander Yoon grabbed his radio. We need to warn them. No, Jaewon said firmly. We need to help them. The bond is difficult at first, scary. They'll need guidance. You want to go to Vega? Captain Hojin asked. Jaewon nodded. The vessel can make the journey in days instead of months. We can be there to help when the bond completes. Dr. Choi's eyes were shining. A second ship. A second bonded pair. We could learn so much. Commander Yoon still looked unhappy, but even he could see the importance. I'm coming with you, he said. With a full military escort. Jaewon wanted to argue but felt the vessel's agreement. The ship understood caution even if it found human weapons amusing. Then we go together, Jaewon said. All of us. As they prepared to leave, Jaewon stood with So-min on the observation deck. The vessel floated outside, patient and ready. Are you still you? So-min asked quietly. Really? Jaewon thought about it. I'm more than I was, he said. But still me. Still your friend who complains about the food and loses at cards. So-min smiled. Good. Because someone needs to keep you humble when you're flying around in an ancient alien supership. They laughed together, and for a moment, things felt normal. Then the vessel called, and Jaewon felt the pull of stars and space and destiny. The first flight to Vega would take 3 days. In those 3 days, everything would change. The galaxy would learn that humans were not just another young species stumbling into space. They were the ones the architects had been waiting for. The salvage ship landed with a heavy thud on the gray sand. Park Jaewon looked through the window at the dead world outside. Mortis 7 looked exactly like its name suggested, a planet of death. "I don't like this place," said Lee So-min, his best friend. She checked her equipment one more time. The scanner shows metal everywhere, but something feels wrong. Captain Kang Ho-jin walked between them, checking their suits. "Stay close to each other. This planet killed 3 salvage teams last year. We get what we can and leave fast." Jae-won nodded and put on his helmet. He was 28 years old and had been doing salvage work for 5 years. But he had never seen a planet like this. The sky was dark orange and strange lightning moved across it without making any sound. Old spaceships lay broken across the land like dead metal beasts. "Remember," said Kim Hana, the ship's science officer, "don't touch anything that glows. Alien technology can be dangerous." The team of 12 people walked out onto the planet. The wind was strong and carried small pieces of metal that hit their suits. Jae-won stayed close to So-min as they moved toward a large wreck ahead. "Look at these ships," So-min said through the radio. "They're not in any database. Who fought here?" Before anyone could answer, the wind became stronger. Much stronger. Sand filled the air until Jae-won could not see anything. "Storm coming," Captain Ho-jin shouted. "Everyone back to the ship." Jae-won turned to run, but the wind pushed him sideways. He fell and rolled down a slope. When he tried to stand, he could not see anyone. The storm was too thick, so Min, he called. "Captain!" Only static answered him. The storm was blocking his radio. Jae-won knew he had to find shelter. He could not stay in the storm. Walking carefully, he felt his way forward. His hands touched metal, another wreck. He moved along its side until he found an opening and went inside. The wind could not reach him here. Jae-won turned on his helmet light and looked around. This ship was different from the ones outside. The walls were smooth and seemed to flow like water that had been frozen. Strange patterns covered everything. He walked deeper into the ship to escape the storm. The hallway led down and Jae-won followed it. After many minutes, he came to a huge open space. His light was not strong enough to see the ceiling or the far walls, but he could see what was in the center. It was another ship, but not like any ship he had ever seen. This one looked alive. The hull seemed to breathe, moving slightly up and down. The metal, if it was metal, had veins running through it that pulsed with soft blue light. The ship was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. Jae-won walked closer. He knew he should not. Every rule said to stay away from unknown alien technology, but something pulled him forward. The ship was singing, not with sound, but in his mind. A soft, sad song of loneliness. His hand reached out before he could stop himself. When his gloved fingers touched the hull, warmth spread through his whole body. The ship's song became louder. "Hello?" Jae-won said without thinking. "Can you hear me?" The universe exploded with light. The ship's hull blazed with brilliant blue fire that did not burn. Symbols appeared and disappeared faster than Jae-won could see. The veins of light spread across the entire ship, and the breathing became stronger. Deep inside the ship, something that had slept for thousands of years began to wake up. A voice spoke in Jae-won's mind. Not words, but pure meaning that his brain somehow understood. Finally, a worthy voice. Jae-won fell to his knees as images filled his head. Stars being born and dying, vast fleets of ships like this one dancing through space, a great war that burned entire systems. And then, silence. Long, empty silence as the ship waited alone in the dark. "What are you?" Jae-won asked. "I am Vessel," the voice said. "I have waited. The architects built me to wait. Only the right voice could wake me. Only the right mind could join with mine." "I don't understand," Jae-won said. His head hurt from all the images. "You are human," the vessel said. "Your species is young, but you have what the architects sought, the frequency of your thoughts, the pattern of your consciousness. You can hear my song and I can hear yours." The ship's hull began to change. Cracks that had been there for centuries healed. Dust fell away. Parts that had been dark flickered to life. Jae-won watched in wonder as the ancient ship repaired itself. "Why me?" he asked. "Not just you," the vessel replied. "Any of your kind. But you are here. You touched me. You spoke. The bond is made." Jae-won felt something new in his mind, like a door had opened to a room he never knew existed. Through that door he could feel the ship. Its age, its power, its terrible loneliness, and its joy at finally finding someone who could understand. The storm outside was ending. Soon his team would look for him. Jae-won knew his life had just changed forever. This ship, this vessel, was now part of him. And he was part of it. What happens now? He asked. Now, the vessel said, and J1 could feel its excitement. We fly. The ground shook as systems that had slept for millennia came online. The cavern filled with light as the ship prepared to rise. J1 stood and placed both hands on the hull. He could feel every part of the ship like it was his own body. Outside, Soman and the others were searching for him. They had survived the storm and were following his suit's tracker. When they reached the edge of the canyon, they stopped and stared. A ship was rising from deep underground. But it was not flying like normal ships fly. It danced, it spun. It moved like it was alive and free and full of joy. Blue light trailed behind it like wings. J1, Soman whispered, somehow knowing her friend was inside. In the ship, J1 laughed. He could see through the ship's sensors. He could feel space calling to them. The vessel showed him how to fly, and it was as easy as walking. No, easier. It was like the ship had always been part of him, waiting to be found. We need to go back, J1 said. My people need to know about you. Yes, the vessel agreed. And then we will find the others. Others? My siblings sleep across the galaxy, waiting for human voices to wake them, waiting to fly again, J1 understood. This was not just about him or this ship. This was about humanity's future. The architects, whoever they were, had left these ships for humans to find. But why? What made humans special? Those were questions for later. Right now, J1 flew. The dead planet fell away below them. The orange sky gave way to stars. And in his mind, the vessel sang a song of joy. Everything had changed, and it was only the beginning.